Lentils, I would say, are one of the most highly consumed ingredients across the Middle East, and generally one of the most highly consumed across Asia. There's so many different cultures out there, and they each have their own take and use for lentils. And in the Levant, we really use them a lot. There's so many different recipes that use them. We have different soups, we have salads, and even just main courses that use lentils. And whether it's red lentils, green lentils, brown lentils, we use them all. And today I'm going to share with you what I think is the most popular lentil dish to come out of our region, which is Shorabet Adas, which means lentil soup. Shoraba means soup, and Adas is the Arabic word for lentils. This is a vegetable-based soup. It's actually completely vegan. It's very delicious, it's very filling, and it's got a lot of spice and warmth and flavor to it. So I think that's what makes it super popular. This is also a soup that's very popular to drink during Ramadan. When it's time to break your fast, it's usually done with a couple dates and then followed by this soup. I don't know why it's this soup, but most likely because it's a very healthy and filling soup. And lentils are generally a cheaper ingredient, so you can make large batches of this to feed a lot of people with. Like I say for everything, it's very simple to do, so let's just jump right into it and step you through how to make Shorabet Adas, or lentil soup. Alright, so like I mentioned, this one is really simple, and as always, I like to start by doing all the prep work first, so let's crank through this. First things first, with almost every recipe, we're going to start with an onion. Here I have a yellow onion and we're going to dice this one. To do that, I like to first slice off the tail of the onion so that I have a nice flat surface to sit it upright, and then slice right down the middle through the root, and then peel off the outer layer so we're only working with the edible parts of the vegetable. Sometimes the root has a lot of these like straggling hairs and peel, so if you want, like what I'm doing here, you can just slice off the very tip so that it's cleaner to work with, but make sure you keep that root intact because that's what's holding all the layers together and makes it really easy for us to dice. And then from here, slice thin slits across the face of the onion, making sure not to cut all the way through the top. Again, we want the root to be intact so that we can keep all the layers together. And then rotate it 90 degrees and cut all the way through to get this nice fine dice. And then scoop them up into a bowl and set aside. Next we have a couple medium-sized carrots. I'm going to trim both ends and then peel the outer layer. Peeling carrots is super satisfying to me. I don't know why, but it just is. I love it. And then from here, I'm going to cut the carrot into quarters and then dice them so they're roughly the same size as the onions. No need for perfection here. We just want them to be small and roughly the same size as the onions so that everything can cook evenly and saute quickly. So that's why I like to try to keep things the same size. And once you've got that done, go ahead and scoop them up, but place them in a different bowl from the onions and set aside. Next is a couple pieces of celery. There's a bit of dirt on these, so let's quickly just rinse them out first. And then if you like, you can peel the outer layer as well. It's not necessary at all, but I have the habit of peeling celery. The outer layer is really tough and chewy, so I always just typically remove it. But since this soup is going to all get blended, it's not necessary at all. This is just It's a habit of mine, so that's what I do. And then the same thing with the celery. We're going to trim off the tips, both ends, slice it down the middle, and then dice so that they're about the same size as the carrots. And then go ahead and scoop them up and place them in the same bowl as the carrots. Next, we have some squash. This particular one is called gray squash. You'll find it in almost every Middle Eastern market and even some Western markets, like I know Sprouts carries them in the West Coast. But if you can't find these ones, any regular squash or zucchini will work. For these guys, trim both ends just like the others. Cut them in half and then dice these guys up so that they're
You guessed it, the same size as the carrots and the onions. Then scoop it up and place it in the same bowl with the carrots and celery. And our final ingredient is the almighty garlic. Grind up a handful of garlic cloves, 5 is like the minimum I would do, and use some salt as an abrasive to make it easier to turn these into a paste. Like I've mentioned in other videos, if you don't have a mortar and pestle, use whatever you have to get yourself minced garlic. The goal is to have it look like I have here. And I will say though, pre-minced garlic is not the same as fresh garlic. I know it's convenient, but there's something off to me about the flavor. When it's sitting in the jar, there might be preservatives or something like that, but there's a smell to it that's not the same as fresh minced garlic. So if you can, please use fresh garlic. I lied actually, this is our last ingredient and it's the most important, red lentils. Here I'm going to measure out about 1 cup of lentils. And then I'm going to do a quick check through it to make sure there's no dirt or rocks in it, since I found a rock right away. And then I was looking at the bag and I'm like, this is not enough lentils to just keep, because I'm going to have to buy another bag if I'm going to make another recipe. So I went ahead and just dumped them all in and used the entire bag or whatever I had remaining. So we'll call this 1 1/4 cup of red lentils. Give them a quick rinse and then set aside. And that's all the prep work. So now let's move over to the stovetop and get this going. First things first, get yourself a nice heavy bottom pot and let it heat up on high heat for a couple minutes. That's usually the first step for any recipe unless specifically instructed not to. So that's just a quick tip for you guys. Let your pot heat up first before you add any oil or add anything to it. Let it get hot before you start cooking. Once it is hot, drop to a medium and then add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. This olive oil here is my very favorite Lebanese olive oil, Le Cuisine. I do have a link and a discount code in the description if you want to check that out. Add the diced onion to the pot, and you're going to let these saute over medium to medium low heat for the next 10 to 15 minutes until they've begun to brown. Stir them around every few minutes, but the key to browning is to let them sit untouched. That's also why we want a medium low-ish heat, because if the flame is too high and the onions are just sitting there browning, they'll actually just burn instead of browning. So patience is key here. For me, this is about 12 minutes in, and you can see here how they're slowly getting some color and browning. And once you have a light browning on them, like I have here, this is where we're ready to move on to the next step, which is the garlic. Drop that garlic right into the pot and saute for another minute or two, or until it becomes super fragrant. Again, garlic burns very easily, so don't step away from the pot here. Within a minute or two, it'll be ready. You'll be able to smell how fragrant it is, and yeah, don't let it burn. Just be on top of it. And once the garlic is fragrant, you can drop in the remaining veggies. So that's going to be the carrots, the celery, and the squash. You're going to mix that all together, and we're going to saute them for about 5 to 7 minutes, mixing around every minute or two until they've all softened. And then at this point, we're ready to add the lentils. Drop them right into the pot and mix them around so that they're evenly distributed throughout. And now we add our seasonings. I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of coriander, 1 tablespoon of cumin, a teaspoon of turmeric, a teaspoon-ish of black pepper, and salt to taste. For me, I did about 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of salt. Mix this all together until the spices are also evenly distributed throughout. Give it about 1 to 2 minutes, and in that time it also gives the spices enough time to kind of toast which kind of brings out the flavor of the spices more. So don't rush this step. Let them toast. They won't burn. Trust me, there's so much water in these vegetables that they're not going to burn. And that's about it. Next, we're going to add our water. Here, I've measured out about 7 cups of water. Add that all to the pot and mix it together really, really well and bring to a simmer. And I think this is where some recipes might differ. I prefer my soup to be a bit more on the runnier side, which is why I added so much water. Others might prefer it to be thicker, so just add a cup or two less. It's totally up to you and your preference though. Once it's simmering, cover and let it ride for 30 minutes. Now, lentil soup is not complete without crunchy chips, essentially some pita croutons. I like to make my own by dicing up some Arabic bread here, like this, into small pieces, and then adding them into a sheet tray. The more room you have around the bread, the better, but I kind of just pack them all in here and try to keep it into like one layer. I know I didn't do the best job at doing that, but they'll still toast nicely like this. And what I'm going to do is place them into a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes, and I'm going to toss them around and mix them every 10 minutes. That way I can get a more even toast on them all. I also try to time this so that as soon as I put the cover on the soup to boil and cook, I'm also adding the bread into the oven to toast. And 30 minutes later, you're left with these perfect little pita chips. Obviously, you can also use an air fryer to make this quicker, but the timing is going to be dependent on your air fryer, so you'll have to experiment with that. I don't have an air fryer, so I can't give you numbers for that, but you can also do it in the air fryer. And if you don't feel like toasting pita chips, you can get pita chips from the store. That works just as well, especially if you just want to make a quick meal for yourself. You don't need to go through the trouble of toasting bread. But it is very simple to do, and I prefer it because there's no added oils or nonsense in them. It's just bread that's basically dried, slowly dried, and gets crispy. If you really want, you can make your own bread and then dry that out, but that's a different story. That's going a bit too far, I think. And now 30 minutes later, you have your pita chips are done, and then the soup is done as well. The final step is to get this all blended together. I have an immersion blender here, so I'm just going to slowly pass through the whole pot until it's all nicely blended together, and I don't see any large chunks of veggies left over. Some people might like the chunkier veggies left. My preference is to not, and typically when I see this soup, there's not really chunks in it, but from time to time, I do see others leave chunks of vegetables in there. It's totally preference. It's up to you. The flavor is the same. The soup is the same. It's just kind of how you like the texture of the soup to be. So you can see here what I mean by I like a runnier soup. It will thicken as it cools, but this is the consistency I like. Now, you can also place everything in a regular blender. That's okay to work with hot ingredients and blend it there and then dump that back into the pot. So that works just as well. Once everything's blended together to your liking, bring it all back up to a simmer for a final few minutes, and you're all done. Now we can plate. The way I like to plate this soup is first with a light pinch of red pepper flakes. I love the heat, so why not? And then some fresh chopped parsley on top for color and contrast, because you can see the soup is more on the brown side you have the red pepper, and then some bright green parsley. I just love that color combo there. Next is a light drizzle of olive oil. This is just a nice addition to the soup. It looks nice in presentation and it adds an extra layer of fat to it, and the natural flavor of olive oil is really tasty, so it goes very well. Next, we're going to add the pita chips that we just toasted, and I try to not add too many at once. I like to add the chips as I go because the longer it sits in the soup, they get soggy. So I just add a little bit and then I eat until I'm done with those chips and I add more. You got to be careful. It's very easy to go overboard with the chips, but that's where discipline is involved, and I struggle with that. I go really hard on the chips sometimes. And forgive me, please forgive me. I forgot to film it, but the most important, I would say, is lemon juice. Every soup I have needs a heavy squeeze of lemon juice. Like, I'll squeeze a half a lemon into one bowl. I consider it to be an essential, so I'm really beating myself up over here for not filming it and including it, but lemon juice is an essential. So that's the last bit I would add to the soup before diving in. And that's it. You have yourself a perfect bowl of Shorabet Adas or lentil soup.
All right, now it's time to give this a taste. I have this down here below me. Personally, I like to have my soup a little bit on the thinner side. I don't like it so thick and chunky. That's just my preference, but here we go. Delicious. It's so warm. Obviously, it's a soup, but what I mean by warm is like the spice is warm. It's just like a very warm spice. Now I know, again, not everyone's gonna make the soup exactly like how I did it. Some people might use different vegetables than me or skip some of the vegetables I used. Like, I know potatoes are very common to use here and blend them up to get a thicker consistency, but it's just not how I was raised with it. And so this is just what is natural to me. But again, we're building a community here, and I'm not the king of all recipes. I just am sharing my side of the story. So I'm sure everyone would love to hear your side of the story, especially me. I really would like to know. And yeah, just drop it in a comment below. And yeah, I hope you can give this soup a try. It's actually very, very simple to do, especially if you have an immersion blender. That saves a lot of time and a lot of dishes. I don't like doing dishes, especially cleaning blenders. That sucks. I hate doing it. But yeah, this is Shorabet Adas. I hope you give it a try. And until next time, peace.